You're listening to First Fossil. Because sometimes you simply need someone to help you take that first fossil. Hello and welcome to First Fossil, a show where we learn together how to take that first fossil toward becoming the best versions of ourselves. My name is Candace Olushala, and today's special guest is a real estate entrepreneur. She's a recovering amateur boxer. I'm sure she's going to tell you a little bit about that. She's also a speaker, and she's an aspiring full-time philanthropist. So without further ado, please welcome, for my US people, Nicole Wilhelm. And if you're over in the UK, it's Willem. Okay, so whichever one you land on, feel free to pick one. Okay, Nicole, how are you doing, my dear?
Oh, blessed and highly favored with that introduction. I'm going to start going to all of my listing appointments with you being my hype person. And then we go into the seller's house. I open the
Yes.
door, you come out, and I'm like, "Brr, brr, brr,
Yes.
brr."
That is what I'm here for.
I
No
appreciate-
problem. Here
Thank
for
you.
your services. Yes. So, man, like how's life? We've been in this like pandemic, not pandemic, now an endemic, not really sure what to feel about it, / World War III. Like how are
Ooh,
you doing?
ooh, thanks for that reminder.
I know
Um,
this is what I'm here for. To bring the Debbie Downers on the front end. Get them out of the way. So
Way to keep it real. I appreciate you. I am feeling like it is a great time to be at home with yourself, right? I'm
mm,
feeling like if you have not done the inner work necessary, this shelter in place must make you feel some type of way. Because it makes me feel some type of way. And I've been doing the work. So I can only imagine if you haven't been, like it's feeling real like cluttered, like hoarder style in your mind, and even probably in your home. So I'm just reminded to be thankful for the things that I have, to recognize the people that are in my lives, to see coincidences for what they are. And it's like just reaffirming your journey. So I'm reminded of that as things seem as if they're out of control.
that's a good word to sit on. Like I resonate with that. I mean, I work from home now. I did the Great Resignation last year, and so this it was necessary. Like it was so necessary to just be at home and like just be with myself and process who I am, in the context of what's happening in the world, and knowing that at the end of the day, I'm okay and I'm thankful for that. I'm blessed for that. Um, and there's still a purpose for me to help out with the bigger picture of all the things that are happening. But I need to make sure that I'm good within myself to be able to be of assistance. Because if I'm not okay, my help will not be beneficial to anyone out there. So yeah, I love that. I think I resonate a lot with that for sure. Um, tell tell us a little bit about yourself from your perspective. I'm actually kind of curious about this recovering amateur boxer piece too. So I'm gonna need that unpacked. Okay.
All right,
So
well, let's go ahead and Marie Kondo ourselves. It's so funny. Just earlier today, somebody asked me about my origin story, and they were like, "Yeah, say it like a superhero." And I was like, "Yes, this is actually how I think about my life." So we were talking about this earlier, and I feel like everyone has been lied to about Superman. Because the reality is that Superman is not the person that Clark Kent gets to be. He's actually Superman all the time. And he's Clark Kent around other people so that they don't feel some type of way because he's being the best and highest expression of himself. Right. It reminds me of that Marianne Williamson quote. It is not, our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we're more powerful or like is it that we're more powerful than we can imagine? And so,
Mm,
I remember growing up as a kid, always feeling like I didn't belong, right? Like my mom is from the Philippines, my dad is from Indiana, and so I'm a Black Filipino, and trying to really find my footing in that made me recognize like how important it is to be at home with yourself, because when we're around people who we just want to fit in because we don't want to be different, the loneliness that comes from that, or not having a place where you feel seen, heard, or celebrated,
mm,
is like how can you then be successful, right?
right.
If mentally you're absent from yourself. And so for me, this journey of being a real estate agent, for being a thought leader, and all these things, I used to think you had to fight through it, right? And that's what caused me to get into boxing. And I would have all my ex-boyfriends tell me like, "Oh no, you shouldn't box. Look at you." And I was like, "What does that even mean?" So if I was ugly, could I box? You know what I mean? Like that's messed up. And I feel like, everyone is beautiful. So what does that even say? And so every time like I would run up against something that was telling me not to fight, I would fight even more. And so that's why I say
Mm,
I'm recovering, is because now I'm recognizing that the only person I was really fighting with was myself.
wow.
I felt like I was fighting external forces, but I was really fighting, myself from within. And once I think it's an African proverb. If there's no enemy inside, then the enemy outside can do us no harm.
Mm,
I was like, yes. And so I just stopped doing boxing because I didn't want to hurt other people. I didn't want to hurt myself. I wanted to heal. I wanted to be the steward of people finding their way home. I wrote down the other day, and it like scared me to write it as an intention, is that I wanted to be the Harriet Tubman of mental and financial slavery. I wanted to free people from the chains of, I don't know, your parents telling you how you needed to be. Maybe like you thought that you could never be wealthy, but it's really trading in your poor mindset for one of abundance, and then the money would come. Like, really just changing the way people think about things.
ooh, I fit in that whole situation there. That is amazing. I resonate a lot with that drive to want people to have these mental shackles broken from them. I feel like society unfortunately sets up very specific parts of society and people groups in society to have that, to keep them there. So that way, those that thrive off of their bondage can keep thriving. And I'm not here for that. Let my people go. Okay. That's all I have to say on that. Okay. So we out here a whole Harriet Tubman Moses situation over here. We need to
Talk about
release,
just spread the seas. Just
just part it. Just part it. Lord, just separate the waters because I cannot. Especially in 2022. I think we're over that. Like that's just we're done. Um I don't know if you saw, the other day, it was either I guess it was, like, yesterday or 2 days ago, but, um, there was what I should say from when this was recorded, because obviously it's not gonna be the same day that this is released, so, there the anti-lynching, uh, bill was finally passed after only 122 years. I mean, it's just, and it wasn't unanimous. That was girl, girl, I'm just saying. I'm just
Wait, hold
saying
on,
it
hold
is
on. Could you plug in Time Machine by Willow Smith right here? Did we just go in a time machine back in time where that was okay? What?
girl. When I saw the thing and it was like, yes, House representatives from Georgia, Kentucky, and Texas. I was like, why am I not surprised? I don't even know what to say. Why
Wait,
these
what was the
three.
argument? What was the argument? Yes,
I
we
don't know
should
what the argument was.
because
They just voted it. They didn't say why.
I want to hear that.
I kind of want to know. I want to know.
just want to know, like, how do you justify it? How do you say, you know what? That is a phenomenal idea.
Yeah,
we should do-
right.
we should hurt
Right.
people.
Right. I just I don't know. But this is this is why we need to break mental bondage, because people need to see the things for what they are and realize that they don't have to receive that stuff, they don't have to cater to it, and they can walk in the freedom to have all the blessings that they deserve in life coming their way. So, mm,
But they have to release themselves. I think that's the part that people are missing, is that they're looking for permission from someone else to say it
yes.
is okay. It is okay to
Yes.
be free, right? Isn't that insane, like, to really think about? But I can say that because it happened to me, where I was
Mm,
looking for, I don't know, like, I was going to school and I got just about every degree, gave it to my mom and was like, "Mom, are you entertained?" And she was like, "That's cool, but you need to go get your PhD." And I was like, "Mama." And then I had to ask her, you know what I mean? I had to ask her. I was like, "Look, I get it. Helicopter mom is like real and you want me to be the best and highest expression of myself. But at some point, like, would it be enough?" And then
mhm.
she was like, "I just want that. I want the knowledge to be something that people can't take away from you." And then I
Yeah.
recognized what she was really trying to do, which is making sure that I instilled a quality in myself that was, you don't have to survive, you can thrive and you can continue to thrive and it's okay, right? Because I don't know about you, but I feel like what I've been told in society and the media is that, there's very rare it's very rare to see people like us thrive, like really thrive
Mhm.
on huge levels. When I find in other cultures it's not as strange, but like my friends and I will do this thing where we'll sit together. Who is a Filipino superstar, right? World renowned, everybody knows. Who is a black one? Who is a this? And then when you think about, mainstream, it's very few of us. And I would love to change that paradigm. And I understand that my mom was making that in me, right? Like she
Mm.
was doing like Black excellence, or, being like the top of the Asian culture that you can see. So I could be that example. I just want to reframe it so it isn't something that makes you question if you're enough. Instead, it reverses the question and says, why not you?
Yes. Ooh, I sit in that. Man, especially having immigrant parents, I was raised the same way, so that is powerful. See, now with all of that, I'm very curious about your first Boston experience, because it sounds like you've you with your background and your upbringing, I feel like your first Boston experience is pretty unique, but also relatable. So, could you unpack that for us?
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, how much time do you have? I feel like
Girl,
some clients unpack all their stuff and it takes them years.
it was 1996 when, like,
But you know what you were doing then.
right, right. Girl, unpack away. We are here. So,
All jokes aside, like going back, my mom is from the Philippines, so I'm first generation American, and my dad is from Indiana. Black family. There was 9 of them. The reason why I start that far back is because it took them only 2 weeks of knowing each other before they decided to get married in Las Vegas. And then they thought, where's a place that people would accept us, like widely accept us? San Francisco. So they moved to San Francisco and
of course.
and so like I feel like I just grew up with like an entrepreneurial mindset, and they always fostered um just being the best you could be. And so when we grew up, they spent about, I want to say it was like 26 or 28 years together before they came to me and was like, "Oh, we're getting a divorce." And I was like, "Oh no, the world is ending." Like it really, man, put me down a spiral. just a negative spiral. And then I thought to myself, okay, this is my way that I can define what home looks like for me. So at 19, that's when I just put out into the universe before I realized that your thoughts become things. I was just like, you know what? I want to move anywhere. I want to live anywhere. It doesn't really matter. I pointed to a map. It was Honolulu, Hawaii, downtown Honolulu, Hawaii. And then again, your words become things. And so I said, I want to live anywhere. And I ended up being homeless at 19 years old in a active office building, taking a shower at the men's bathroom on the ninth floor, across the way from a bail bonds place, really wondering like, how did I get here? And it wasn't until I recognized that I had so much negative self-talk that it literally was becoming physical, right? Like it was
Mm,
transforming from my mind into my physical realm. And it was happening faster than I had control over. And I then was like, okay, look, something has to change. Why don't you reverse everything that you once thought and maybe just be positive? And I don't know, maybe try to be the most positive person you know. Just try it, right? Play the best case scenario game. And so I did, and then my whole life changed. I learned to work harder on myself than I did on my work, and I built a fortune. And that's what Jim Rohn talks about. He talks about, working hard on your work and you'll make a living, work harder on yourself and you'll make a fortune. And like, I'm serious, like once that whole thing shifted for me, I then became thankful for all of the things that would happen that were negative. Oh, thank you. This is part of my journey. This will reaffirm my journey. This is just that part where that goes in, and I learn from it and I grow from it, and it becomes somebody else's thrival guide. They'll look back and be like, thank God she shared that. Thank God that
mhm.
happened. Like look at Oprah, right? Thank God her mom didn't like be anything different because we wouldn't have Oprah. But her mom was horrible.
Yep. Wow. That's that's powerful. To see the negative experiences that you go through in life, but they just happen. Um, and saying instead of saying like, "Oh, woe is me," then this is now my identity. You can go, "Oh, okay. This is part of my story, not necessarily just for me, but for other people who need to see what how I utilize the fuel that I can take from this negative experience, negative energy, and generate it into something positive for the rest of the world to be able to feast on." Like, other people need those examples in the world, and Oprah's a great example of that. Even Steve Harvey, like Steve Harvey, the way that this man, bless his heart, he still gets slack for his story, but if you pay attention to his
Yes.
story,
He
like
lived in his car.
for 3 years, like the way that he got to where he is, so much of that was like, he chose not to be in that space, and he got himself out of there because he had a mindset change about his circumstance, and he didn't accept it as his end all be all truth. As so many people do. So that's powerful.
So it's going back to Superman, right? Like Superman, you could feel, if you really think about it, you could feel sorry for that fool. Like he was in a little rocket ship and came to a whole different world without his family, not knowing who he was, just trying to figure it out, and having to fit in all the time until something big happened, and then he had to like find the guts to do something different. That's why I started looking at it different, as being like, maybe you're a superhero, maybe it's a holographic universe and you could do whatever you want. Why does it have to be the negative? If you're the creator of your own experience or the architect who's creating the blueprint of your life, why don't you make something that's like worth going to? Why don't you make a Disneyland of your mind? Why don't you make something so dope that people like Oprah want to have you on their stage so that they can share it with the world, because it has that much of an impact.
Yeah. Man, so wait, what with your parents' divorce, that broke you. You ended up in spaces that you didn't intentionally plan to place yourself in, but you shifted your mindset and you're obviously not in that space anymore. So, what made you decide to have that mindset shift? Like what was going on inside of you or what was that circumstance that was like, "You know what? We can't do this anymore. Something's got to give."
I think it was a series of things. Like if you've ever read The Alchemist, there's omens, right? So I think there was a series of like, okay, God, are you talking to me? You know what I mean? Is it you,
Is that
universe?
you? Hello, it's me. Like
And you're
what's
like,
the
at some
look
point, I
like?
gotta answer this phone because it is
Right? He
so
be
up.
ringing and I should
It's a
probably answer.
hotline bling.
He done called a lot today. I should answer the phone. Hold on. I've been I've been hanging up on God for so much. Lord Jesus, I'm sorry. Let me answer this phone real quick.
Talk about I'm busy.
Right.
God was
Like,
like,
busy. Excuse you? You better answer that phone. He's a whole parent, okay? Parents call back to back to back to back to back to back until you
until they
answer that
get you.
phone.
Until they
Exactly.
get you. Yeah.
So glad you answered that phone call.
I mean, there was times where I would like look at my life like, for real, we here. Like telling you, taking a shower at the Bales Bonds, like in the men's bathroom across the street from Bales Bonds. I'm like, okay, is a dude gonna come up in here? Am I gonna have to like karate chop him? You know what I mean?
Some boxing lessons about to pop out. You know what I'm saying? Well, hey, okay. I still got it in me. Don't think I won't use it. Okay. Hey, all right. Let the Lord use you. Pop out. Like, no, I just
A vessel. I've been channeled.
I'm done. Yes. Oh my word, Lord. Jesus. I can't
Why I
even.
started using my powers for good, not evil. Because I recognize
Yes.
seriously, I recognize that like if you have the power to do whatever you want, why wouldn't you make it amazing? Right? Like then I started
Yeah.
really thinking about myself, like, girl, what? Really? You want to do this for the rest of your life? You want to see people on vacation in Hawaii while you struggle for the rest of your life? That's life. And I think I just came home to myself, like I just recognized when, like a teacher's like saying people's names in the classroom and they're like, Candace. And then they're not paying attention. They're like, Candace. And you're like, oh my God, how long have I not been here? How
Mm.
long have I not been in this seat? How long have I not been paying attention? Who was driving? Where was I going? What was I doing? Right. And I started listening to Jim Rohn. I started listening to Tony Robbins, Eric Thompson or Thomas, Lisa Nichols. And it really occurred to me where I go, oh, thank God this happened to you, because that's the part of the story people are going to be like, oh my God, it's like Rocky. You want to watch it over and over again because you're just like, for real though, you had to sell your dog. For real though, it got so bad that like it was almost game over, or you actually hit game over, you hit zero, you went negative. Oh,
We was in the red. No,
not in the red.
not the red. Not unless the red is the blood of Jesus. That's the only red we walk in. No, no, not the red. We rebuke it. Oh Lord, not the red. I can't, girl.
you know, it's like Monopoly, they're like, you cannot pass go anymore. Because you can't collect no money. And you're just like, how is this life? Why would you want to play this? And then I go, oh my God, it's a game. It's a game. Money or points on the game. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Be cool with the banker. Got it. Get property. Got it. It started making sense. And then I was like, okay, this is a game to be played. You can't be absent. You have to be fully there, present, and playing full time.
Mm.
Right. But in this game, other people can win too. You can all win. Isn't that crazy?
That's the best part. That's the best part, like, when you realize that this isn't like you win and they lose or you lose and they win, it's like everyone technically has the opportunity to win. It's just that those that are currently winning don't always want you to know that you can always win with them. Because in their mind, they're like, that's taking away from their winning. When in reality, it's not. It's not going to take away from their winning. It's just going to be a joint winning for everyone who's in the know of how much they can win. That's literally it. There's abundance out there, but we're not taught that. We have to figure that out.
And once you do, it's so great. So great. And I want everyone to know, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, why is this the secret again? Like, why are we telling more people? This is crazy. Because at the end of the day, when I heal, you heal. When you heal, we all heal. And that's how you have world peace. That's how there's no world hunger, because we all have enough. It's
Mm,
when one person feels like they have to take from the others, do we not have enough?
yeah. So then is that how you got into real estate?
You know, I feel like I've always been in real estate in past lives. And then this is now people are listening are going to be like, what did she say? Pat, I was following her. It was all good. I was
I
like,
got lost. We took a turn. The GPS shut off and we're in the woods. And I don't know how to get out. So,
and I just mean like your soul contract, right? Regardless if
yeah.
you believe in like past lives, what have you. I think inherently we all know, regardless if you think past lives or actual past lives or even stages as you grow up, like as you go from a child till now, that's past lives too. Who you were at 8 is very different than who you are now, or is it? Right. And so for me, I always knew, like I said, I wanted to welcome people home. I always knew it. I always knew it. I always wanted to have people feel comfortable within their own skin. Growing up in San Francisco, like I saw drag queens at maybe like 6 or 7, and it wasn't weird, right? Or people that were transgender, it wasn't weird. You were just like, hey, what's up? What you doing? You know what I mean?
Yep.
You look fly today.
Yes.
How you put this together? I want to know. Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. You know what I mean? And I think I took that for granted for a long time and I like buried it. And I was like, oh no, that's not a superpower to make people feel at home in themselves. Like everyone should do it. Everyone's doing it, right? Until being Filipino, I went all the way. I gave the gift of what my mom's dream of what she thought I could be was. I gave her that gift of making it a reality, meaning that I went and got my bachelor's degree, then I went and got my master's degree, then I became VP of marketing for a startup. I did all the things. And then I was like, here, mom, here you go, only to find that to be empty. And I go, wow, we're not achieving just to achieve. You're really just focusing on what your gifts are, and then you get paid in proportion to how you just want to give it away. And so when I looked at that way, I'll go, oh man, what did I really love to do that no one had to pay me for? Making people feel at home with themselves, making the person that was transgendered like make me feel more comfortable in my skin. It wasn't the reverse. It was like, damn, you're doing you at like the utmost level where you don't even care about society's like norms. Like, yes, yes, we should
Mhm.
all aspire to be that free within ourselves, that we don't care about what we've created. I knew then that that was the path for me. I just didn't know how to incorporate it. And then when somebody told me about real estate and entrepreneurship, you can own your own business, you can have a startup. And then I did the research of how much money real estate agents were making. I go, that's crazy. Really? That's amazing. Why don't we tell more, Black and brown kids about this? Like, why is this not a career path that you could have chose? Like, at least it wasn't presented to me, right? Like, it wasn't something that I even seen within my neighborhood. It wasn't that I saw a lot of people of color being real estate agents. And so I never tied the two together until my husband goes, we just bought a house. I think we're like 25. And he's like, you could have done that. I was like, done what? It's like, help welcome people to their home. And I was like, really? You think so? And he was like, yeah. He's like, I think I could too, because we could just life coach them and they could so happen just to get a house. And I was like, what? For real? You think that could be a job? And he was like, yeah. And then we started doing it and it like took off. And now I would say we're like 90% referral based. And we find so many like-minded individuals where we're creating a community of people who just like have done the work on themselves and they want to be a part of a community where other people have too, and they just want to be progressive and accepting and inclusive. And that's the common thread of all the clients that I see, is
Mhm.
they all want that and they're all looking for it.
Wow. That messaging of wanting to welcome people home. Correct me if I'm wrong based on, like, what you said, but when I hear you talk about that, to me, it's like welcoming people into a home that they've been living in and they just didn't realize that they've been standing in the foyer of their own home the entire time.
And it's a mansion.
Yes, it's not a shack. It's
No, it's
not
a
under the
building.
bridge.
No.
We ain't living in no caves.
No, it's
Like,
no, it's architectural digest, son.
yes. I'm telling you, like, I do life coaching and I often talk to people about how we often live based on our circumstances, the messaging that's around us, the people that we interact with from our most impressionable years. There's this sense of we think we know who we are, but it's based on all of those external factors that now become our internal dialogue that we now think that internal dialogue is us. Like, nope, that's not you. That came from out there somewhere, all that trash. And then you just took it in and you haven't gotten rid of it. So now you think this is the foundation of your household. You think that is the wallpaper on your home. You think that is the welcome sign to who you are, and it's not. But your younger self, your former person, usually actually knows who you truly are. But you have to figure out, one, that you've actually been lied to about the house you live in,
Oh,
and two, once you know that this is a lie, you need to figure out, where do I actually live? What is my actual house? And once you actually know what that is, you can't take that away from you. Like, that's your house. Like you said, the house number 632 Ballin Way, like that's my house,
yeah,
okay? And
yeah.
you can't change that. So you go from like a perceived self to
Mhm.
like actually seeing yourself. Like, I thought this was me and I walked in that. I lived in that. And now that I know the truth, I go back and go, that's a shame that I actually walked in this lie the whole time. It's like living in a mansion, but like thinking that the foyer in the front is the whole house. Not realizing that you have like a west wing and a east wing and a Tesla, and like you just didn't know. You've been like riding your bike that you borrowed from a friend, and you're only wearing like the same shirt and like 2 pants every day. Like, but you have a walk-in closet, you have a butler, you have maids, you have the presidential dog. Like, I don't understand, right? Like, we allow this to be our reality, and we're so easy to receive that, like, hold that as our truth versus holding on to positive things, and we have a choice to do one or the other. But we assume, based on how heavy things feel, that our only choice is to take the heavy negative things as our truth.
I just wanna hold space for that so that people can, like, really digest what you just said, like,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, like, being a child and playing house, right? Like, nobody told you what your house was gonna look like. You told people, "This is welcome to my house." Like, this is what it has, and I wonder what happened throughout people's lives that they forgot that they
Mhm.
were the architect or the creator of their own experience, that at any point you wanted it to stop and you didn't wanna paint it that color, you could start again, or you could rip off the wallpaper and see what was behind there, and if you like that better, then yeah, you know? That's why I'm so thankful to have found my gift in this world, and I just feel like I just want more people to have the joy of mental home ownership. Like, once you're really present in yourself, oh man, Like you could start seeing other people get neighbors. You could get dope neighbors. You could be Mr. Rogers. You know what
Yes.
I mean?
Thank you. Don't just be on a please don't just be on a lonely little block by yourself with your mansion. I mean, it's great that you're in your mansion, but without those neighbors,
Yeah, you need
like,
homies. Sure, you need block
yeah.
parties. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like don't be a vibe, be a mood. And you can't do that by yourself.
Yes. You can try, but you would be the only one enjoying that experience now. That's not fun. So,
No, not
I
no.
love that. I love that. Ooh, see, now we see that could literally gear us into the topic of like who you're surrounded by. Like, who that's when you realize that you're sitting in a mansion instead of the shack that you were conditioned to think you had. And then you realize that all of your like best people and like you grew up with them, they've been your ride or dies, and they're all shack mentality people, and a lot of them don't want to leave their shack, and you have to make the decision if you ooh, see now we're really talking real estate. The value of your home is often dependent by what other people's homes are doing. What are you doing with your house? Because your house will either bring my value up or it'll bring it down. I'm trying to be a prime piece of real estate over here. So if my neighbors aren't helping to keep my price value up because they want to live in a shack mentality, they want to keep devaluing their homes. I will not I can't do that to myself. And it does has nothing to do with how much I love them, how much I want them to be in their mansion and receive their mansion, but I can't want it enough for them. They have to at some point decide if they want to stay in that shack or actually live out the mansion that they're technically living in and not realizing that they are. I'm no longer in a space where I can wait for that. I can hope and pray that you get what you need, but we can't be on the same block. You can be blocks away, you can be on the other side of the town, but we can't
Mhm.
be in the same neighborhood. I need new neighbors. I need fresh neighbors who also know that they live in mansions, that they and it's not pride. It's not a pride thing. It's a it's actually more humbling to realize that you live in a mansion and you celebrate other people also living in their mansion. If it was just you on your block with your mansion, that would be pride. But if you want a community and it's not a gated community, it's an open community. This is a big block. You can either welcome people on it or get new neighbors, something, but you have to.
I'm over here taking notes.
I'm
If you
done.
hear scribbles, you hear hella scribbles,
She's
it's
like,
like, you're like, is she a DJ? No.
I'm done.
Taking notes. I'm a treasure trove and I'm collecting gems. I am here. Okay, okay, here we go. You said not being in a gated community. The only thing I would add to that is the gates of your own mind, right? You're starting to
Yes,
recognize that you got to close off for some people, okay? Because you don't want them up in your neighborhood and messing with the
yes,
value. You don't want them stealing your joy, right? You don't want
yes,
them to burglarize your home because you weren't home, and instead they're putting in whatever their thoughts are about money, about relationships, about all sorts of things. I was like, please God, say she is recording all of this, because I'm like, I'm just gonna do my whole TED talk about it. Girl, you wrote my TED talk. Hallelujah. Thank you. Won't he do it? Won't he do it?
won't he will? Yes, won't he will? Hallelujah. Hey, yes, this is all going on the podcast. We're just gonna. I mean, I love these types of conversations because they're honest, they're raw, and like these are the type of conversations that I want in this space because not everyone's talking about it, especially people of color. Like these conversations that we're having are so countercultural to what you and I were raised to believe and think and walk in, having one, if not two, immigrant parents. Our
Yes.
bless our immigrant parents, but the mentality that they brought with them here,
Whew.
unfortunately, was a lot more binding despite the fact they came here for liberation. That's the saddest part, right? Like they came for opportunities that was more liberating from wherever they came from, and yet they came with a shackled mindset and gave it to us and said it was culture. It's like, no, that's just shackles. Shackles don't have culture. Shackles are just shackles. So like, I was like, I love you, but I gotta get out the shackles. So like that, and they that's where we are as first generation American kids. It's like, I love you. I understand what you were doing. I appreciate your sacrifice. I am who I am because of a huge part of that, but we're free. We're free. So we can't pass that on to another generation, making them think that freedom is in bondage.
Mm,
That's
mhm.
no, freedom isn't freedom. Bondage isn't bondage. Keep them separate.
You know what? So many things came up to for me. I felt like this was like a little healing session. I was like,
Ooh,
"Ooh, that just
cleanse me.
generational like healing." Because
Yes.
someone's gonna hear this and it's gonna be like, "Woo, Lord, it resonated."
Mhm.
I thought about an elephant getting tied down, like a young elephant, and all it had was like a tiny little rope, and it was stuck to a nail. And the whole time the elephant grew up, the rope didn't get any thicker, the nail didn't get any bigger. And so at any point, the elephant is much larger than the rope and the nail, and they could have ran. But because it was raised that way, it thinks that it is tied down, that there is no hope, that you can't do it. And so, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't thank my parents and tell them, hey, thank you. Your mindset, the things that happened to you got you this far. Please trust in me that I can take us further, right? I'm hoping
Mm.
to build generational wealth through mindset, right? I'm recognizing that it's not about money and it's not about circumstance. What it is about recognizing that it is a choice. And so there's this lady, it's so funny. I went to a rich dad, poor dad seminar when I was hella young. And I was in my 20s, and my husband, then boyfriend at the time, we went to the seminar, and this lady had crazy hair. We're like, oh, we can't believe her. Like, she didn't even get her hair done. And it was like, she said, she walked over, it was like, hey, do you know what's going to happen in the future? And we're like, what now? You're a fortune teller? Like, we really weren't taking her seriously. And she goes, I'm going to give you a secret and hopefully you listen to me. And she's like, I'm a multimillionaire and I just want our culture to be free. And you're like, okay. She's like, you can have a choice to be poor or rich. And I was like, whatever, lady, you probably grew up rich, right? Like I was really like so negative in my thinking, so tied down on like money is a root of all evil. Like, don't, like, all these things were playing in my head, that dialogue. But I was like, you know what? Let me just pause it to hear her. And she goes, no, I meant poor mindset and a rich mindset. You can invest in yourself to the point where you change your mindset and then it is transmuted, or then it is something that appears in the physical. You can change that. And I was like, what? And it really sat with me. And then I go, okay, wow. If more people knew that they didn't have to be their parents, but they could still be successful, and that success could then liberate the future generations to know that they could do anything and be successful, and to be successful on their own terms, right? Because they chose to, all because they chose to, like, then going back to a child, imagining, wow, I want to be an astronaut. But really though, like, people around you, everything reaffirmed that you're supposed to be an astronaut. You saw stars, shooting stars every time you looked up, and to the point you became one. And then now your family traditions are asking, what do you want to be? How can we support that? How can we be of service to that? And that's what's really happening with my daughter. And I'm like, it starts with me, right? And how I raise her. I try not to tell her to be fearful of anything, right? I want to empower her to the point that she can trust her own decisions. And that's why I'm so excited about what you're doing on this podcast, what you're doing with your TEDx talk, just all of the things, how you decided that you're going to take ownership of your life, quit your job, give it deuces, and be a part of one of the greatest movements and the greatest like revolutions in history. If you think about it, we're going to look back and be like, hot damn, like all these people all said, you know what? I'm good. I'm gonna invest in me. I'm gonna do me. And it's great. I personally want to hear more about it. Like, what caused you to say, I'm gonna take the leap like Steve Harvey? I'm gonna trust in myself and I'm going to be the person I've always wanted to be.
Wow, no one's ever asked me that on my own show. I love this. Okay. There was a moment in my life where I was in an abusive relationship, and it technically wasn't the first time. It was just the most severe and most obviously severe. And I say that from, like, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, sexual, all those things. It was like the climax of all of the other abusive situations that I had been in since I was a kid in one person. And I realized that as much as I feel like I don't have a choice right now, I'm going to just, in hope. I don't think I believed it to be possible. I just had enough hope that whatever it is that I'm experiencing now, I could, if that's a thing, not be here anymore in this capacity. So I'm going to just choose this is my bottom floor. I know that if I'm staying on this elevator of my life that I feel like other people are getting on and off and pressing all the buttons and I haven't pressed a button yet, I realize I also have the fingers to press a button.
Ooh,
And I don't know what I know that the ground floor to me was either him taking my life or me taking my own. And I
damn.
wasn't willing to see that floor. So I finally just said, I'm finally going to say this is my ground floor. This is where I stop and I can either stay here or go up. But I will never introduce myself to that ground floor. And I'm just gonna choose that in my mind. I didn't know if that was possible. I didn't know. And like once I did that,
Mm,
it actually to him, he noticed like my confidence changed just from
mm.
making that decision. And he broke up with me because he realized I didn't have a shackled mindset that he can control anymore.
Ooh.
And I started to recognize like, oh, this is like a thing, like the mind. The mind is way more powerful than I've given it credit for so long. And it's because I've been lied to about how my mind works and how it's allowed to work. And so I just kept leaning into the hope that it could get better than what I had ever experienced in my previous life. And it did. It took like 10 years to get there, but I could constantly see where those different shackles were breaking until I finally broke completely free and was like, okay, now I'm pissed because like I was like now because I was at first you'd be like, oh, this is so beautiful. And I was like, wait a second, I'm mad because I feel like I need to fight somebody that I've spent how many decades of my life in that mindset?
And so now you can see how I went into boxing because you just like
Yes. I was ready to cut
the
everybody.
rage
Like,
off of it.
yes, I
Yeah.
was so livid. And I'm like, dang. And so many people are walking this earth living the same lie that I am. And now I'm pissed off enough to make sure that no one else lived that lie as long as I did. Like, I don't care if you're 85,
Mhm,
25,
mhm.
5 years old, like, I will fight for you to realize that is a lie from the pits of hell, and you cannot keep that. You can't keep doing this to yourself. Like, no, we have so many options. We have so many choices in life, and the audacity that we would walk into the earth and say we don't have choices. If anything, I don't care what anyone takes away from you, what they can't take away is your choice. And even if that's just a choice to choose a different mindset, that is a power that literally no one can take from you, even in your insanity. You can choose, right? And you can even fight to choose. Like, even if you feel like I don't know how to choose, I don't know where to turn to choose. Just the idea that you can fight to choose is a choice. So, when I realized that, I was like, "Nah, this this is game on. Like, I'm liberating everybody I can find. Like, that is my driving force. I'm about to be cutting shackles everywhere. Everyone's
You get
getting out of
liberated.
jail. Oh
You
my
get
word.
liberated.
You get
You
lit.
get
Like,
liberated.
I'm telling you, girl, I was like, I am a whole Moses. We letting the people go today. I can't. I was so mad. I was I was so angry. I couldn't believe it. And like you said, like once you recognize your house, once you realize your mansion that you're living in, you start recognizing other people living in mansions, thinking that and living in them like they're shacks. And then you get mad because you remember what it was like to be there. It's like you've been eating ramen noodles and you had enough money in the bank for a gourmet 6-course meal? What? So that was for me. That was my breaking point in 2011 as a college kid. And I said, no, like this, I'm so exhausted from living this mindset for so long. Let me just see if this new hope gets me anywhere. Man, such a small act of just desire and faith, and it's completely changed the entire course of my life.
There's so many things that you just said. I mean, it's even talking about, I like to call like somebody's oppressor, right? The person that you're with, your ex-boyfriend, you know, you said something about like it was all of the negative things, all the things that happened to you in one person. And I thought about like being in one being, like it's all being together in one place. Like how you had to experience that. Like it's almost like your greatest like fears, or it's like being in hell, right? And I tell people like being in heaven and hell is a choice. And the Bible is one of the greatest books ever written because it tells you have a choice, right? Like
Mhm.
it was one of the first books that was like, hey, player, you know, you can
Right.
choose heaven or hell.
So true. So true.
No. And you were really naked the whole time, and now you just recognize it. But like you still live in the Garden of Eden.
Right, exact thank
And
you.
that's what I really love about the thought of freedom for people, is reminding them of that. And to your point about like being on the same block with other people, that was the hardest part for me, is I think I was born with the Mother Teresa gene, where I would have these friends where I'm like, look, I know we're not supposed to live on the same block, but this is an up and coming block. Maybe if somebody saw, somebody putting in the work, maybe if they saw somebody like being nice to their neighbors, it would all be wonderful. And we can all like learn from that experience. There are some places that it's gonna take some time. It's gonna
Mhm.
take time for the whole block to change. And I tell people that. But it's when you have blocks where the pride of ownership is there, where you have neighbors who are on the same page, who they like create what I like to say is like a neighborhood watch, where it's not watching for crimes that are happening to others per se. It's more of the crimes that you commit against yourself. All that negative self-talk that will then create the person. Hurt people, right? The only reason why people steal and do things is because they feel like they have a lack, and that by taking from someone else and they can gain. But the irony is that you already have it and you don't need to take it from someone else. So I think it's just really being around like-minded individuals that get that we live in abundance, not scarcity. That, again, to your point, everything that everyone has ever told you about how this works was wrong, right? And you knew it from a baby. I feel like babies and children get it the most. Like I see my daughter, she's 5. Okay. I'm like, hey, we can't do this today. But why? But why? Until it gets to the very heart of it. And you're like, damn, got to make a choice. Are we going to
Yeah.
do what we wanted to do? Are we not? And it really just comes down to that, right? As I have the choice to do it. We could be late to something else. And it's to have that childlike response, I think, is needed, and not in the way that's bratty, but in a way that you're the best advocate for yourself. You
Yeah.
recognize that you do have a choice. You're okay with wanting the things that you want, and you don't feel like necessarily you have to have the permission. You ask for your parents, but most of the times when kids want to do what they want, they do it. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying go around and push people down, take people's bike like a 6-year-old. What I'm saying is to be full of yourself, to be okay with being selfish, so that you're self-full, so that you don't feel the lack, where then you start taking from other people and you're just grabbing, right? I think it's really about loving, like having radical love for yourself so that you can have it for other people.
Mhm.
Right? Like, when is that moment when you started falling in love with yourself? Like radical love for yourself, where you're like, you know what? I love me for me. Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, actually I do. I had just gotten back from my pharmacy school classes, I think I just gotten back from work, and I parked in front of my house. It was almost sunset, and oftentimes, like, you park in front of your house and then, like, you sit there for, like, an hour just decompressing before you walk into the house. So it was one of those moments, and I sat in the car, and it dawned on me that I actually loved me, and I
Mm,
broke down in tears because I was like, I remember just always having these constant thoughts going through my head about why I'm unloved and I'm unworthy. And it would
mm,
just be like a tape player in my mind since I was about 4. And this is now like 2017. I'm 27 years old and I'm like, wait a second, that tape, it stopped. I like I really like me. I love me. And I don't think I was able to say that before then. And I was so overwhelmed. And I wasn't even like fully freed, but that moment it was a very intimate personal experience by myself, and it meant so much to me, especially given that I remember it specifically being a very cloudy day and very just gloomy and not a very energetic day, and usually those things would have put me into a whole other mindset, just symbol of my life, the soul gloom, like, just horrible mindset. But that day I was like, "No, like, the clouds in the sky have nothing to do with the sunshine in my soul."
woo!
This is and I didn't even, like, I've never had that reality, and I'm
Woo!
sitting here in my car, exhausted as all get out, and there's sunshine in my soul? What? Like, that's a thing? That's a thing. Like, I can actually sit here, someone else can be mad about their life, someone else can be complaining about something, and that doesn't have to change the weather in my spirit. Like, no, this is clear blue skies here. I I can hope that you get your blue skies, and I can pray for you, and I can hope the best for you, but that doesn't equal, well, then me too. It's bright and beautiful enough on the inside that despite the things that are happening, I'm okay. I'm okay. And this is great. And so, like, I just kept leaning into that because it was so new to me. So I was like, I almost wanted to like catch myself seeing if I would go back to the old mindset. I was like, let me be really attentive. Like, maybe that was just a moment. And I realized, like, no, this wasn't a moment. This is my new reality. And this is cool.
Okay, look, again, you hear the scratching. It's like, "Wooka, wooka, wooka." I'm just taking hella notes. Uh, it's so good. Okay, you came home to yourself was a beautiful, like, image of you
Yeah.
in the driveway. Before you actually go into yourself, you had to just sit in the driveway. I don't know how many people do that, like, now, you know what I mean? But not recognizing what they're doing, like they're decompressing, that they're letting go so that they can go home,
Hmm.
like home mentally and physically. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. And another thing is like microclimates, right? So I tell people all the time the Bay Area has microclimates. I went to Arizona recently. I didn't know it had microclimates. You could be in Sedona and it's nice and beautiful and spiritual and wonderful. Then you go to Flagstaff and it was like snowing. I was like, wait, hold on. You're only like an hour away from each other. Um, and the same comes with neighborhoods. And that's why it's so crucial. If you're listening to this and you're wondering what are the first steps, it's to recognize where you live currently. What does it look like for you now? Is it that you go out of your house and you think, oh my gosh, it's Seattle? No shade to Seattle, but you know it rains all the time. That's just facts, right? Is that what it's like, right? Or that look at like Hawaii, and there's very rare, very, very rare that you are gonna see times where it rains to the point you don't wanna go outside. And when it rains warm, and you know that it's needed, and that's why things are lush, right? Again, it's really mindset, and I just wanna thank you for having a platform like this to help people recognize that, to help
Yeah.
people understand that it is the greatest power, that somebody can have.
Yeah. I appreciate that affirmation, actually. So, I guess with all of that, what takeaways would you want people to have from your story and how you got to where you were? Like, think of the person that may be in a similar situation. They've had really random, jolting news. It's completely flipped them upside down. They don't know where up, down, sideways is, and they feel a little lost, and they're just not really sure what to do or where to turn. What is your advice for those people?
So, my husband and I talk about this all the time. It's this too shall pass. No matter what it is in your life, it will pass. And so, in my TEDx talk, I talk about like mental real estate cycles. You can only be in a recession for so long. Just like regular real estate, you're not going to be in a recession forever and ever and ever. Like if you look at real estate, it has a way of always going up. Like, you don't ever see it stay down. Like, you might see it dip, but it's not gonna be there forever. So if you are experiencing it right now, this too shall pass, but my question is, what does the second act look like? Is this gonna be the story that you tell yourself so that you can continue on a downturn? And this is like a movie that people are like, "I can only see that once." Like, it was so
Mm,
depressing, I don't wanna see it, or I don't wanna, be around it. Like, I can't sit with it.
mm,
Or are you gonna look at this time in your life and go, "That was a catalyst that caused me to change my life. That was the
mm,
best part of the story because it showed me who I was. It reminded me that I was not breaking, that I was unfolding, and what was underneath was this person that I always have been, and that, this is your soul contract, whatever it may be. This is what you're supposed to do, and the story that's happening to you is gonna be someone's thrival guide." I know I said it before, but, like, it's gonna be your testimony first because I gotta test you. Then, while you're going through it, it's gonna feel like a survival guide because you're like, "I just need to get through." Then you'll look back and be like, "Oh, snap. That's that was my journey to thrive. That's how my
yes,
movie became Rocky," whatever it may
right,
be. So that's what I would say is really do a deep dive on where you are. Where are you located in your journey? The second part I would say is play the best case scenario game, right? Instead of the worst case, instead of thinking like, how can I be the victim? How can you win? What does
mm,
winning look like? Imagine if you couldn't lose, right? And that the only things that were holding you back were the things that you thought were holding you back. And that was the real game. It was like an escape room, but you had all
mm,
the keys and everything you needed.
mhm,
And maybe you're really asking yourself, why not me? Why can't you be Nelson Mandela and you were trapped in a jail cell for, 20 odd years to come out and rule the entire country? Why not? And the last piece I would say to people is that don't overestimate what you can do in a year and then underestimate what you could do in 10 years. Instead, reverse engineer it and go, you know, the rocking chair test. Who do you want to be that when your grandkids, sit on your lap and they're like, "Dang, Grandma Candace, like your life was so dope. You lived through a recession. You had a podcast that changed people's lives." Like, what does that story look like? Because then you can reverse engineer it and get there, right? Because you're creating it, you're writing it, you're starring in it, and then you cast all the people that are going to be supporting actors and actresses.
yeah.
You're the casting director. Now it's time, right? Like to write that story.
The time is definitely now. I heard a quote today. I was looking back on a video of a contestant on America's Got Talent who just died of cancer a couple days ago. She's only like 30 something. And she said something after she performed an original piece about her year with battling with cancer, and it was stage 4. She said something along the lines of, "You don't have to wait for everything to be good before you choose to be happy." And that's what she walked in every day. Even though she had cancer in her bones, in her lungs, in her like, it was everywhere, and she's like, I'm not waiting for this to disappear." I want to be happy now. She chose that mindset. She didn't have to, and many don't. And so that sits with me, and especially after everything we just talked about, that the knowledge of choice is one of the best liberating factors that we have as a key to our own house. Choice. And it's a master key because it doesn't just unlock you. It helps to unlock other people when you know that you possess that and that you've had it the whole time. So feel like I'm going to be sitting in this episode a bit myself too, because it's always good to be reminded that you always have that key and you always live in that house. Like, don't forget your address.
To this keys to the kingdom. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes,
To the
yes,
kingdom of God. Oh,
yes.
wait, they didn't tell you that you were God's child? That you were made in their image? Oh, you
You
forgot?
didn't know that? You didn't know the greatest creator of all time done created you to be a creator too? You didn't know? You didn't know you were an artiste? No, you didn't know? Well, let me tell you, you were a whole artiste, okay?
Let me
Let me
remind
Yes, let me let you know.
recalculating.
Yes, we done recalculated. We made it to the destination. Hallelujah. We are not lost anymore. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. We was lost, but we are found. Okay, so glory be. Hallelujah. Won't he do it? Nicole, this was such a great episode. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to not only talk with me, but to share your story with my audience and just be vulnerable and candid today. How can people contact you, find you on social media, get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can, follow us on Instagram. We like to share heartfelt stories on Instagram. And yeah, I would say email the Wilhelm team at Compass. But if you really truly want to stay connected, it's to pay it forward, right? Is to take something from this podcast and apply it to your life, whether it's just to have the choice of to go a different way home. Maybe it starts with that, just doing something different. So thank you, Candace, for the opportunity. I appreciate you. Thank you for doing the work on you, the homework to be the person that you are. The world is better because you're in it.
Ah, thank you. And likewise, truly, truly, thank you. And thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. If there are any topics you want covered in the future, if you're dealing with any situations right now that you want covered on this show, shoot me a DM. You can always hit me up on social media at Candace Olushala. You can text me at 859-800-3396 and let us know, like, how did you relate to this episode? What is it that stood out to you? And I also encourage you guys to not just listen to it here, but share it with a friend. Have those dialogues in your own community and see if you have a circle that's willing to make those choices together. I mean, that's super cool if you do. And if you end up realizing that maybe you're the only one, know that we support you in your bravery to make that choice to not stay where you are mentally anymore. So, if you want to support any further, you can always go to www.firstpaso.com. Love to hear from you guys. You can check out all the things that I do there. And thank you guys so much for everything. Please stay safe. Huh. Rona is still out here. She's still doing stuff. She's doing tricks now, and she's definitely packed a room for herself. So she gonna be here for a long time. So just know that and be cautious, be conscientious, and please don't breathe on people. Okay, we don't want that. Even when you were brushing your teeth, which I don't know how many of y'all are anymore now that we have masks. So, I just concerned. Dentist, do your thing. Okay. Nicole, we will talk and I'll see you like every week. So,
Yes, yes.
so
For the end
there
of
we
all
are.
time. Yeah.
Yes,
We're
yes.
neighbors.
We're neighbors, girl. We done that. Let's have a party, girl. Yes, I'm gonna invite you over to my mansion. Okay. I'll see you, girl. Take care. Bye.